obscure city is a place where you can find many unique dangers. This is where she works, Cassandra Killjoy, paranormal private eye. Now a teenage girl's father has gone missing, and Killjoy believes that the city's enigmatic protector, the swordsman, is the key to finding him. So Killjoy must face many deadly dangers in her search for the swordsman. Available on Amazon.com. Even extraordinary cartoons can have extraordinarily bad episodes, and when that happens, you get InepToons. So it's only a matter of time before we get the MCU adaptation of 2015's Secret Wars. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to go back in time and talk about when the 1984 version of Secret Wars was adapted by Spider-Man 1994. It was corny, it was goofy, and at times it was a 20-minute toy commercial. But it was never 100% bad. Until the final season. And why did the quality start to decline towards the end? Well, this was mostly due to the 65 and done rule. You see, back in the day, animated shows would only get 65 episodes, and then get cancelled, no matter how successful they were. Suffice it to say, during season 5 they were getting closer and closer to the 65th episode. Knowing that the end was near, a few of the members of the creative team left the show. Then on top of that, the Fox network waited until the last possible minute to pick up the show for season 5. This insufferable delay caused even more members of the creative team to jump ship and seek employment elsewhere. This left showrunner John Semper Jr. having to produce the biggest and most ambitious season of the series with approximately half of the staff he had available to him for the past 4 years. A season that planned to conclude the long-running Madam Web storyline and adapt one of the biggest comic book events of all time, Secret Wars. Now, for those of you who don't know, Secret Wars was a 12-part event series that Marvel released in 1984 to sell toys. I am not kidding. At the time, DC and Kenner were kicking ass with their Superpowers toy line. So Marvel made a deal with Mattel to create an action figure line of their own. Unfortunately, at the time, DC had a cartoon featuring all of their most popular characters to advertise the toy line. Marvel did not. So instead, Jim Shooter came up with Secret Wars, the first ever event comic, a 12-part miniseries that would run for a full year and would feature the majority of Marvel's most popular heroes and villains pitted against one another by an all-powerful entity called the Beyonder, in order to determine which is greater, good or evil. Ironically, the comic ended up doing better than the toys, revitalizing Marvel comic sales in the mid-80s and making the event comic a major staple for both Marvel and DC to this very day. So yes, Secret Wars is one of the biggest, most successful, and most beloved comic book miniseries of all time. And John Semper Jr. planned to adapt this 12-part event comic into a 3-part episode. Yeah, this was never going to work. So fanboys and fangirls, from Spider-Man 1994, this is Secret Wars. Chapter 1, The Arrival. Now, before we get going, it's important to note that, unlike most 90s cartoons, Spider-Man was serialized, meaning that each episode continued onto the next, and the first chapter of Secret Wars was no exception. Throughout Season 5, the mysterious and all-powerful Madam Web, played by Stan Lee's wife, Joan Lee, continuously appears to the webhead, making him face all manner of challenges in preparation for the ultimate test. In today's episode, we finally get to find out what this ultimate test is, the Secret Wars. Our episode begins with Madam Web teleporting Spidey to a distant planet, where he is introduced to the Beyonder, an all-powerful cosmic being who wants to know which is more powerful, good or evil. You know, that old chestnut. The Beyonder chooses a peaceful planet with no concept of evil, and then teleports a bunch of Earth's villains to the planet. Dr. Octopus, Dr. Doom, Alistair Smythe, the Lizard, and Red Skull, and then speeds up the time on the planet to 1 year later, allowing the villain's evil to take root.
What an asshole!
Madam Web then challenges Spider-Man to defeat the villains and restore peace to the planet. You know, no pressure. Thankfully, Madam Web provides him with the tools to bring said peace. an impregnable headquarters full of vehicles, equipment, and a teleportation machine of his own so he can assemble a team of heroes from Earth to battle the villains. Now, in the original Secret Wars, the Beyonder transported 19 heroes to the planet. In this version, Spider-Man could only choose 7. Just as good. Fun fact, John Simper Jr. intended this to be a crossover between all the Marvel cartoons that were on the air at the time. Unfortunately, like many things associated with this episode, that just didn't work out. The only character/actor to legitimately cross over was Robert Hayes as Iron Man, who was still playing Tony Stark in the Iron Man cartoon at the time. Everyone else, not so much. Captain America had an animated series in production that was supposed to premiere the next year, but was cancelled due to Marvel going bankrupt. To save money, it was decided to only include one X-Man, but because X-Men was produced in Canada and Spider-Man was produced in California, Storm was specifically selected because Iona Morris, who voiced Storm during season 1 of X-Men, not only lived in California, but was already part of the cast of Spider-Man, playing Martha Robertson. And as far as the Fantastic Four are concerned, neither producer Avi Arad nor John Simper Jr. liked the cartoon that was on at the time. So Simper took this as an opportunity to create his own version of the Fantastic Four, crafting his own designs and casting new actors to play them, except for Johnny, who was still voiced by Quentin Flynn. So it's still a little bit of a crossover, maybe. But what about the Hulk, whose show aired on UPN? Well, a request was issued to use the Green Goliath in the crossover, but UPN simply said no. And you want to know how John Simper Jr. got around this? Oh yeah! Yup, the impregnable headquarters that Madam Web gave to Spider-Man, the one that the villains haven't been able to infiltrate for a full year, is suddenly, inexplicably broken into by the Lizard, who, by the way, is supposed to be an analog for the Hulk. Just as good. Our heroes brawl with the Lizard for a bit, until Iron Man quickly and efficiently knocks him out with his repulsor ray. But that doesn't mark the end of the conflict, as for some reason, throughout these episodes, the Thing is a colossal D-bag, stubbornly second-guessing and antagonizing Spider-Man in spite of respected heroes like Iron Man and Captain America vouching for him, and Mr. Fantastic repeatedly advising him to be sensible. Ben just keeps escalating the situation, and Johnny eventually joins in. Douche. All of Ben's crappy behavior does is give the Lizard enough cover to escape. Spidey explains how the Lizard is actually his friend Kurt Connors, and they should help him. So most of the heroes jump into action to round up the reptile. Unfortunately, they quickly find out why none of the villains have seized this base in the past year, as it is surrounded by giant alien worms. Jeez, where's Paul Atreides when you need him? Another brawl ensues. An invisible woman proves that Spider-Man wasn't a complete idiot for recruiting the Fantastic Four by being the MVP of this fight, as she is the one that rescues the Lizard and then creates a force field around the base to keep the worms out. Unfortunately, she's not going to be able to keep up that force field forever. So Reed and Tony put their magnificent brains together and deduce that the base has its own built-in force field, but simply lacks a sufficient power source. To which Spidey immediately devises a solution, to have Storm provide said power with her lightning. So the Weather Witch jumps into action and saves the day. Cut to the next scene. Reed apparently figures out how to awaken Kurt's dormant mind so he'll have control of the Lizard's body. Or maybe you could just cure him so he doesn't turn into a savage killer monster anymore? No? Not gonna do that? At all? Alright then. So our episode winds down with Spidey planning his first move in the oncoming war, with a custom-made chess set that I am surprised Avi Arad didn't make into a toy. Kurt approaches Spidey and asks him what he's currently up to. Spidey reveals that he has found an alien recording device that he plans to use to document the events to come, and caps off his explanation with a line that is clearly for the trailer.
And I'm gonna use this to keep a diary of it. I'll record whatever happens, so that the greatest war ever fought isn't a secret war.
So to quickly summarize the first chapter of this saga, the heroes arrived, fought each other, fought some worms, and were saved twice by the two most sensible members of the team. Noise! Chapter 2, The Gauntlet of the Red Skull. So, you guys remember how I explained that this show is serialized? The second chapter in this saga starts by servicing a whole other storyline from the series. That's right, boys and girls, it's morbing time! As we find Morbius and Blade hunting the Queen of the Vampires, who is also Blade's mom. And if that sounds awesome, that's because it is. And from the looks of it, our heroes have her on the ropes. All seems bleak for the Fang Gang when suddenly Black Cat shows up and saves their butts. But then our fearless feline suddenly vanishes. Meanwhile, back on Battle World, Tony and Kirk figure out how to rig the teleporter to transport one more hero to their base, which means Spider-Man can now recruit any Marvel hero to help them in the coming war. Yes, he could choose among the most powerful heroes in the entire universe. Thor, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, but he goes with Black Cat. Gee, I wonder why. I kid. There are 3 good reasons why Spidey chose Cat, as opposed to, any other hero. Number 1, his forces are spread thin, with the Fantastic Four on the other side of the planet fighting Doctor Doom, and Storm leading the alien rebel forces against the Red Skull. Number 2, he needs a hero on his team that he can trust and knows how he operates. Other than Tony, Cap, and Kurt. And number 3, and most importantly, now, there is a chance that the inclusion of Black Cat might be a reference to the Julia Carpenter Spider-Woman, who joins the Secret War comic a little late into the series, but that might just be my apophenia acting up. However, Cat is not pleased to have been teleported away in the middle of a mission.
You've got to send me back. Now!
Drama!
Whoever you are, stay out of this.
My name is Captain America.
You're Captain America?
Really? The Star-Spangled Leotard didn't give it away? Much to Black Cat's chagrin, our heroes agree to travel to the Red Skull's fortress, where they will mount a stealth attack from the rear, while Storm's forces mount a head-on assault. For the sake of clarity, I will refer to Storm's team as Team Full Frontal, and Spidey's team as Team Backdoor. This is for clarity, I tell ya! However, Team Backdoor has a little bit of trouble making it to the rendezvous point, as the planet itself keeps kicking their ass. Their hover car gets crippled by a sandstorm, Black Cat nearly falls into lava, and Iron Man's armor gets severely damaged by a rock. Yup, he can go toe-to-toe with Thor, get hit by multiple cars, and have an entire moon dropped on his head, but bludgeon him with a boulder and put a fork in him cause he is done. Meanwhile, the bad guys are getting along splendidly, as both Dr. Octopus and Alistair Smythe team up with the Red Skull.
As soon as he has given us what we want, let me know. I will dispose of him.
As soon as I have my kingdom back,
You might want to consider me as your new employer.
Oh, those guys. Meanwhile, Black Cat seems to be getting cozy with Captain America.
Me and my big mouth. Why didn't you just set them up on a date, Spidey?
Drama. Meanwhile, Team Full Frontal is ready to attack, only to find themselves outmatched by Smythe's robots. Team Backdoor sneaks in from behind and face off against the villains who run away. Wow, that was anticlimactic. Only Black Cat takes chase. None of the other heroes think to follow her. They just stand around the command center while Spidey talks to Smythe. Smythe, we have to override these robots' programming and save those people. Okay. And the rest of the heroes, again, just stand there while Spidey and Smythe work. None of them think to go outside and help the rebel forces fight off the robots. The robots eventually self-destruct. And then, and only then, do they think, maybe we should go help Black Cat. Okay. So they catch up to Cat and the villains and join the fray, only for Skull and Doc Ock to get away. Again. We cut back to the hero's base, where Cat and Spidey make up and make out. And thus, Chapter 2 ends with Blade and Morbius back on Earth, musing about where Black Cat might have gone.
I sense that she is in good hands.
well, you're not wrong.
Chapter 3, Doom. Our heroes split up yet again. Cap, Tony, Black Cat, and Storm stay on that side of the planet to continue the battle against Red Skull and Dr. Octopus. And how will a terrific Titans triumph over the nefarious Nazi and the malevolent Mollusk? No time for that! Cut to Spidey and Lizard, who are on their way to rendezvous with the Fantastic Four, who are on the side of the planet ruled by Dr. Doom, aka New Latveria, when they are attacked by a giant robot. And the Lizard suddenly loses control.
Maybe when you use your lizard strength, you unlock the reptilian side of your brain.
So the angrier he gets, the stronger and more savage he gets? Gee, that sounds familiar. Also, this very important plot point never comes up again. So our heroes go to the rendezvous point, only to find the Fantastic Four among the remnants of their crashed vehicle. At this point, I would like to point out that this is the third vehicle that Madam Web has provided for them that has crashed. Thanks a lot, lady. You suck worse than your movie. Also, they had a replica of the Fantastic Car back at the base? What? Reed explains that they were ambushed by Doombots and that they kidnapped Ben. Oh no, not that great character that adds so much to the story. So our heroes go to New Latveria to rescue him, only to discover that the place is a peaceful utopia, and that Doom was expecting them, going as far as to invite them for tea at his castle, where they come upon a shocking sight. Doom has used a device on Ben called the Element Splitter and made him human. So he can invent an element splitter, but he can't invent a shirt? This, of course, is in reference to the comic, where for some mysterious reason, Ben can change back and forth from Ben Grimm to the Thing, all the while he's on Battleworld. Furthermore, he also fixed his own face. Reed, of course, is not having it, and knows this is just a trick.
I've cured Ben. Something you could never do.
Ooh. Doom then arrests the heroes and intends to put them on trial, and Ben just allows this to happen. Doom then uses his guilt against him by promising that he'll free his friends if Ben tells him about the Beyonder and the teleportation machine. Ben, who's the biggest idiot ever, just gives him the information, because apparently he forgot that he's talking to his arch nemesis.
You have my word.
That's good enough for me.
Doom travels to the hero's base, uses the teleporter to transport himself to the planet where the Beyonder is, and then uses the elemental splitter to give himself the Beyonder's powers. And he achieved this all thanks to stupid-ass Ben Grimm. Fanboys and fangirls, I present you with the villain and the actual villain. This three-parter has done the impossible. It has made me hate my favorite Marvel character. And yes, in the comics, Doom also steals the Beyonder's power, but somehow the creative team achieved this without the need to bastardize any of the Marvel heroes. Doom then demonstrates his godlike power to Ben by teleporting himself 10 feet to his chair. Okay. But more impressively, by ending the Secret Wars. He sends the villains back to Earth and brings the heroes to his castle. Gee, it would have been nice to see how that fight ended. But anyway, he offers them the opportunity to live in peace in New Latveria. But the heroes decline his offer. Now, I have to hand it to John Semper Jr., as he brilliantly justifies Spider-Man being the leader of the team in this moment, where Spidey argues to Doom that no mortal being should ever have that much power, because with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And no one, not even Doom, can handle that immeasurable amount of responsibility. And what does Doom do about this? Does he send the heroes back to Earth along with the villains, therefore eliminating any possible opposition? Nope, he teleports them 50 miles away. There, our heroes decide unanimously to continue fighting Doom, in spite of the fact that he could kill them with a mere thought.
What's he gonna do? Drop a mountain on us or something?
Boy, they got hit with 10 tons of irony. So yes, this also happens in the comic. Only it is the Molecule Man that drops the mountain on our heroes, and they survive by the Hulk holding the mountain up on his shoulders, while the others figure out a way to tunnel out. Yup, the Hulk holds up the mountain.
Doc, my friends, please, tell me what you did with them.
Who knows? Perhaps they are hiding under a rock.
Get it? Oh, Ben, you moron. Doomy Poo has had a long day and decides to take a power nap, only to accidentally create monsters in his sleep. And even after Spider-Man reaches him and wakes him up, he still cannot make the monsters go away, as he has lost control of his godlike powers. Spidey once again pleads for Doom to give up the power. Doom responds in the most sensible way possible and goes to kill the heroes. And then, in his first and only heroic act in this entire three-parter, Ben picks up the elemental splitter and shoots Doom in the back, freeing the Beyonder, robbing Doom of his power, and saving his friends. So, does this redeem Ben for causing all of this in the first place? No, sort of, maybe, a little bit. And thus, the Secret Wars officially end. The Beyonder and Madam Web reassure the heroes that their memories will be wiped, and everything will be restored the way it was before the war began. Spider-Man laments that with all the events wiped away, all their efforts were for nothing. Storm beautifully counters his argument by stating that they succeeded in proving that good is more powerful than evil. And in the end, that's all that matters. So our episode ends with the Beyonder sending the heroes home and taking Spider-Man to his final challenge, the season finale. This three-part episode is not good, but it is definitely worth watching. Just the insane amount of ambition that went into these 3 episodes is awe-inspiring. And hey, I get it. John Simper Jr. was trying to give Spidey that big multi-part adaptation, like what X-Men had with the Phoenix Saga, or Batman with the Demon's Quest. But Secret Wars was just too big, and yet still, I feel that it merits admiration. That like Spidey, Simper and his team didn't back down, and they still charged forward in spite of insurmountable odds. The one thing that I cannot overlook is the lackluster portrayal of Ben Grimm, who's presented here as an irrational lunkhead who would sell out his friends to his worst enemy just to be pretty again. And that is just not Ben Grimm. So if you're a big Spider-Man fan, give it a watch. If you're a big Ben Grimm fan, you might want to stick to the comic, which I cannot recommend enough. Because as far as Season 5 is concerned, let's just say that it's very fortunate that these were not the episodes with which they were going to lead this season.
The fact is, Mo probably does a better job of leading the Three Stooges.
Next time on InepTToons.